Well, welcome to the C Files, folks. Thank you for joining me. I have just a few moments that I can spend with you and give you a perspective on what's happening in California, in LA specifically. I understand there's been some rioting in San Diego as well, all along the Southern California area. Give you a perspective on that from the viewpoint of a retired Southern California law enforcement officer. Um, I've been in the middle of those type of riots as a law enforcement officer in Southern California during my career. And so I have an understanding of how things work and what is happening. First, I want to let you know that every last one of those protesters, well, I can't even hardly call them protesters because I know what they actually are. So they're not just protesters. Um, that attacked ICE agents will be arrested and will be held accountable. Now, what's new that I haven't seen before is that um, politicians who obstruct federal law enforcement from doing their job in California may also be taken out in handcuffs and charged or maybe indicted federally for crimes against the federal, crimes against the country, federal law. Um, so that's new. But what's the strategy here? What's actually going on? Well, what's happening is they are cataloging. They have facial recognition now, and it's something that when I began my career in law enforcement in Southern California, and not until toward the tail end of my career, we didn't have that tool available to us. But toward the tail end of my career, that tool became available, facial recognition. And they are in the process, I'm sure this is what's happening. They are in the process of cataloging and writing up arrest warrants, indictments, and they're going to go after these rioters. Once things begin to settle down, they will go and pick these guys off one by one. And my belief is that the vast majority of these rioters, these people in the streets that are demanding, that ICE leave their state and all of this kind of stuff, are illegal aliens themselves or family members of illegal aliens or human traffickers. These are not good people, folks. From my experience working in law enforcement in Southern California, these are despicable people. They are despicable because through my career, I saw what they do. They talked about the Home Depot. Pretty much my entire career in law enforcement in Southern California, Home Depots were the places where they would gather. People would pull up with the pickup trucks and they would hop in the back and go and do a job, or they'd hop in the van or whatever, the SUV or whatever it was, and they'd go do a job, and then they'd bring them back to the Home Depot, and they would be living down in the canyons of Southern California. And guess what? They would traffic across the border and take into those canyons to service those men who were illegally in the country and working under the table and not paying taxes. This nonsense about, well, they're paying taxes too. No, they're not. They're getting paid under the table. So where does this stuff come from that these people come up with? They haven't been on the streets. They haven't worked law enforcement in Southern California. They have no clue what they're talking about. They just they read the liberal narrative that's out there and they just buy into it and they just go with that. Um, the reality is, no, they work under the table, they get paid under the table, and they don't pay taxes. Okay. Um, so they traffic women across and children across the border to go down into those canyons at night and service these men that are illegally in the country. And if you understand what I mean by service, we're talking about sexual favors, right? Um, but what it is it's slavery. It's human trafficking. These women are not doing it voluntarily. They're doing it because the cartels are forcing them to do it. It's big money for the cartels. A lot of these illegals commit crimes in Southern California. And I'm talking about sometimes heinous crimes against the citizens in Southern California. Now, the people in the streets protesting, they're not the citizens of LA. The citizens of LA don't support those folks. The legal immigrants in LA don't support those rioters. They are happy that ICE is there, and they would love to see those illegals, rioters, and human traffickers, and basically abusers of mankind and humanity. They would love to see them arrested, charged, and deported, and they can have their city back. Why do the politicians like Maxine Water go out and yell at ICE and attack ICE? It's because their voters are being deported. And the city, it could turn red, it could turn pink, but it's not going to remain blue because the people have woke up and they see what's going on and they're sick and tired of it and they're fed up with it. So as things begin to settle down from this initial uproar that they're having, because these people that are in the streets yelling and screaming about their rights and all of that, they are not, most of them are not U.S. citizens, I guarantee you. Now, I need to tell you about La Raza. If you're not familiar with La Raza, it's Spanish, it means the race. And it's a interracial Hispanic, in other words, different types of Hispanics, different ethnic Hispanics, right, that have formed this group together. And what they believe is that the United States does not own the southwestern United States. They believe that they own the southwestern United States. If you look at the La Raza Nation, that's a gang that has the same belief that they own the streets of the southwestern United States, not the federal government, not the people of the country. And so this is an insurgent war against the American people. They want to control and take over, which they've already taken over California and New Mexico, but they want to control California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and they're working hard in Texas, Nevada, and I think maybe South Dakota. But that segment of the United States, they claim that for themselves. They say, no, you don't know, you whitey, because, if you're American, you look like this in their eyes. They want people like me out of there, kick them all out. We're taking over and we are going to run things and we're not going to listen to the federal government because they don't tell us what to do and they don't own us. Please excuse me. That's who's in the streets of LA. That's the people that you keep seeing waving the Mexican flag, but actually they have their own flag. And I can't remember what they call their land. It's at Aztlan or something like that. Anyway, excuse me, I swallowed wrong. Um, anyway, they claim that for themselves. They say this is our country. We claim this as a separate country from the United States. California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Nevada. I mean, they're claiming those as a separate from the United States, and that is their native land, and that they are taking ownership of it. And so the illegal immigration is a part of their plan. They bring these illegals over and they tell them, vote for these politicians because these politicians are in our back pocket. We own them, and they will do what we tell them to do. They will do what we say because they know that we have gathered all of these illegal voters across the border. And then the politicians play the game, and you get what you have today, where California, Newsom, and the mayor of Los Angeles and so forth are refusing to cooperate with the federal government and refusing to cooperate with ICE. Why? Because in reality, and they won't tell you this, but in reality, they're on board with this idea that the southwestern United States does not belong to us. It belongs to these indigenous people. And so this is basically a coup against the American people, and it's a coup against the federal government. And it's kind of a quiet, silent civil war that they have declared on the rest of the country. And so Trump basically just stepped up. Basically, it's like when McClellan was fired by Lincoln during the Civil War because he wasn't getting the job done, and and Lincoln hires the drunk General Grant, who doesn't give a crap, and he starts winning the war. He starts winning the war for the North. And then you have Sherman's march going all the way down into New Orleans, driving right through the South. Of course, that was after Stonewall Jackson was killed. Stonewall Jackson was the biggest hindrance. They had a hard time dealing with him because he was such a brilliant military strategist. But basically, what's happening is Trump sending ICE into California is it's a similar thing in my mind to Sherman marching all the way to the Gulf and to New Orleans with the Union Army through the Confederacy. If you can imagine that this group, Loaza and the people sympathizers with the illegals, that they are like the modern day Confederacy against the United States. Trump sends his Sherman, which is Tom Homan, into enemy territory and begins raising havoc and deporting all of their voters and creating problems. Well, the problem that this modern, in comparison, Confederacy, if you will, has is that a lot of their own citizens are against that Confederacy. They're against this idea that the United States doesn't own the southwestern United States, that these indigenous people, they call themselves indigenous. Nobody knows that their bloodline actually goes back to the indigenous people. Some may and some may not. But they the idea that they claimed the southwestern United States for themselves, the vast majority of the people in California are against that. They reject it, they hate it, and they're really happy ICE is there. They want to get those people out of there. So that's what's happening. LAPD is sitting back going, hey, look, they're doing their job for us. We don't even have to do that much. They're doing our job. They're getting rid of these people for us. So, hey, we're not going to interfere with it. Yeah, let them go. There was a report I saw on X. I don't know if it was true or not. I can't confirm it, about the LA chief of police, um, saying that LAPD would begin to interfere with federal agents and all that. And then the report was saying half of LAPD threatened to walk off the job and support ICE if that were to happen. So if there was an internal memo or something going around on that, I think that got squelched real fast when he realized half of his force was going to walk off the job and not support him. So, and I don't know where the LA sheriff is. Where are you, LA sheriff? You should be right in the middle of this. The mayor and the governor can't tell you what to do. You're an elected official. They can't boss you around. So anyway, so that's basically what's happening. Now, Sherman's going to win. Okay, Grant's going to win this one. The federal government's going to win this one. They can yell and scream and have their megaphones and shame on you and F ICE and all this kind of stuff. All they want, but problem is they've already lost. They've already lost this battle. It's just a matter of time now before the final victory is completed. So that's where I am on it. A lot of these people are communist. Last time I was in San Diego, 2023 time frame, a friend of mine took me around, showed me all of the communist posters that were put up around the city. And when I was there as a law enforcement officer, I remember when these young students would go around and handing out their socialist flyers with the hammer and sickle on them, and come to this meeting. And we're gonna have this meeting. Come to this meeting. They termed it as, we're going to fight injustice. And of course, that's what communists always say. That's communist propaganda. And a lot of these young folks bought into the communist propaganda. And so there's your sympathizers. But the vast majority of the people who actually live in reality, who actually have real lives and are trying to make a living and have an actual family and all of that, they don't buy into that stuff. And they outnumber those who have been radicalized. And so the radicalized are going to fight their battle, but they're going to lose. And so I'm just patiently sitting back and waiting as step by step, arrest by arrest, deportation by deportation, California and LA and Orange County and San Diego and all of that is taken back and owned once again by the American people. Thanks for watching. That's my thoughts, and God bless. We'll see you next time on the C-Files.